How's everybody doing on this very hot day? Doing good, huh? Thank you for being here. And board members, thank you so much for being here. Staff, Superintendent, Mr. Hyatt, all the district staff, thank you for being here. Our security, roll call, Joan.
Charles Long.
Here.
Chris Martinson.
Here.
Michael Shaw.
Here.
Priscilla Benali. Kevin Mitchell.
Here.
Thank you, John. We do have a quorum, so I'd like to call to meeting at this order. And roll call, Pledge of Allegiance. Chris? Thank you, board members.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion that we approve today's agenda, please.
Okay, motion's been made by Chris Mortensen to approve today's agenda, second by Michael Shaw. Roll call, Joan.
Mr. Mitchell.
Yes.
Mr. Shaw.
Yes.
Mr. Mortensen.
Yes.
Mr. Law.
Yes. Thank you, board members. Let's go down to recognition. Mike?
Sure. President Long, members of the board, we appreciate the opportunity today to celebrate, again, another banner year for GMCS athletics. I think this is, in my opinion, probably the best year ever we've seen for many, many years as far as accomplishments by our student athletes. And so we appreciate those that were able to make it today, also their parents for supporting them in their efforts to be student athletes, which isn't always easy, to keep up the grades and also excel at their activities and athletics that they participate in. We also appreciate the staff who are here with them and those who could not be here, who support their student athletes, who teach them and give them lifelong lessons. So we will turn the time over to Mr. Chavez, who will be a part of the naming of the student athletes, and we'll call them up. And board, if you would come up to the front so you can shake the students' hands, and we'll go from there.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. To just piggyback off what Superintendent Hyatt said, again, it is a great pleasure to be able to honor a lot of the bright spots that we have every year that come out of Gallup McKinley County. I will say Mr. Hyatt is correct. I have spent more money this year on board recognition plaques for state runner-ups or state placers, and that is a very good problem to have. So last thing I want to say is it's not just about the coaches and the athletes. Parents, without you, none of this stuff would be possible. So thank you. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to my assistant, Sean Manuelito, and we will call you up teams at a time. And teams, after you get up here, after you shake the board members' hands, stay up so we can get some photos. And let's do this.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So we'll go ahead and get started. Board members, we'll go ahead and get started with Gallup High School. And the first athlete, Shaylee Vicente, who's part of the New Mexico 4A softball state championship team. Shaylee Vicente here. Jasmine Marufo. Brianna Vicente. Dakota Spencer. Catherine Lincoln. Yanaba Harvey. Taylor Morgan. Morgan Balone. Stephanie Charlie. Linnell Nota. Sienna Haynes. Alexis Sosi Hood. Victoria Zaharti. Rihanna Chi. Jaden Gabadon. Viviana Alman. Assistant coach Chris Ballone. Assistant coach William Haynes. Head coach Crystal Pablo. And that's for the 2022 softball state championship team. Another round of applause for our state championship team. Thank you very much. Continuing on for Gallup High School for New Mexico 4A track and field shot put state runner-up Cody Tohachi. The coaching staff, head coach Andrew Rodriguez. Assistant coach Kyle Benali. Assistant coach Robin Langer. And that's our Gallup High individual shot put for state runner-up. Another round of applause. Thank you, Cody. Next is for Rhema High School, individual 200 meters, state runner-up, Bodie Evans. Assistant coach Wiley Clausen. And head coach Miles Killian. Another round of applause for Bodie Evans. Thank you, Bodie. Next is for Mymera High School. For the 1600 medley relay, state runner-up, Abdullah Alassi. Part of the relay team, state runner-up, Sergio Salim Gillespie. Part of the relay team and individual 800-meter run, state runner-up, Tyan Benson. And head coach Peterson Chi. Another round of applause for Miami High School. Next we have Tohachi High School. For the 2022 New Mexico 3A Boys Track and Field 4x800 meter relay team with a new state record of 8 minutes 25 seconds, .13. State champions Nicholas Yazzie, Melvin Scott Jr., Jared Peterson, and Briley Dufinis. Tohachi High School State Relay Team. Assistant Coach Lionel Livingston. And Head Coach Dion John. So now have another round of applause for Tohachi High School. Thank you very much. For Crown Point High School, 2022 New Mexico 3A Track and Field, individual shot put, state champion, Navarro Burnside. Head coach Trina Perry. And assistant coach Roderick Harlan.
Again, congratulations. If real quick, before the Bengal softball team leaves, we had a couple girls walk in late. Can we get one more team photo with the board members, please? Bengal girls softball, come back up for one more team photo. So it was Victoria Sarate, state champion. Thank you.
Thank you, board members. Once again, congratulations and awesome job to all our athletes. Keep doing the great work you guys are doing. Appreciate it. You represented the district very well. Yeah. With that, board members, we go down to item.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Oh, I'd just like to say that, I'm really proud of our Tohachi track team. They've been doing an amazing job, and I've seen the program excel so much in these past years. And so I would like to really thank Mr. John, for his great work, and also with the cross country as well. You do a fantastic job for our children. Thank you, and to the assistant coach as well.
Likewise to Crown Point. Yeah. We go down to item 2A, or item 3.
Motion to approve the minutes of May 2nd, 2022.
Okay, motion's been made by Michael Shaw to approve our meeting minutes of May 2, 2022 regular meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Chris Mortensen. Roll call. Joan?
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Shaw,
Yes.
Mr. Mortensen.
Yes.
Mr. Long.
Yes. Thank you, board members. Let's go down to item number 4, approval of consent agenda items.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion that we approve these consent agenda items. Looks like 4A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, and J, and K.
Okay, a motion's been made by Chris Mortensen to approve the consent agenda items. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Michael Shaw. Roll call, Joan?
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Shaw,
Yes.
Mr. Mortensen,
Yes.
Mr. Long.
Yes. Thank you, board members. We've approved our consent agenda items. Let's go down to study circle. Any public comment? No public comment. Our superintendent's report. Mike?
President Long, members of the board, we have a special guest here today to give a presentation on redistricting as part of that bid process and a part of the process that happens after every census report. So, sorry, introduce yourself and the company. Usually I have somebody else do that for me.
So thank you, Mr. Hyatt and the board for allowing me to be here. I'm Dolores Anderson. I'm with Architectural Research Consultants, and we have been contracted to help the board with their school board redistricting. And as you know, well, the first few slides, just knocked everything down, just explain what the process is and why we have to go through this process. So I guess, let me see.
Can I ask you to get a little closer to the microphone so they can
yes,
pick it
sir.
up at home?
Yes, sir.
Sorry.
But unfortunately, you have the slides in front of you. Unfortunately, it's not quite right there. So again, what the agenda for the redistricting is to do the overview of the redistricting, the demographic changes between 10 years ago, or 2010 and 2020, and then now the current district, thank you, and some redistricting alternatives. This isn't, the redistricting alternatives are not, won't go forward without your approval. And I can make lots of different ones as we go through this. So thank you. I guess I can't really see it. So I don't really have to read all of this, but you can see that the redistricting process is the revising of the geographic boundaries. One person, one vote, and it is the public law 94-171 that allows us to do this process. I did get the information from the U.S. Census 2020 by block. So if you didn't know, you have more than 7,500 blocks in your county. Almost 60% of them have no population, but I still had to grab them all. So, which I found very interesting. So the next slide again, it's the 1965 Voting Rights Act that protects any certain minority groups or any discrimination. The guidelines, as you can see there, are to substantially make each district about the same size, population-wise. No dilution of minority whenever reasonable. A precise math solution isn't going to be possible, and you'll see that. But no islands, and then to make a district compact, so no strings or disjointed. Oh, and then the very last thing you can't see on there, it says no law prevents concern for incumbency of office holders. So because I didn't really know where any of you live, but I'm hoping that my solutions don't cause any of you to have to run against each other. Let's see. So, that's it. So again, the geographic building blocks are precincts, and then also the census blocks. And you can't really see that. I guess that's on the next slide. It says sometimes census blocks are broken, but that's not happening. I made sure that they were whole. So again, you can see the demographic change from 2010 to 2020. Your population did grow 3%, and again, this is just in the McKinley County Schools assignment area. I did pull out the Native American population. As you can see, it's the majority of your population. The others, the 30%, and you'll see there would be Hispanic, non-Hispanic whites, Native, Black, Polynesian, Pacific Islanders, and then anybody that chose to be 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 of the above. So your current school boards, and again, unfortunately, we're not seeing the bottom, but the very bottom of it has the Zuni Pueblo. But this is your current school board districts now. You can't really see 5 very well, as you know, it's in the city of Gallup. So I made, it's kind of hard to see, but I made a school board. Let me see if I can go to next. That's a little bit better. That shows what 5 is in the city. Okay. I think they're going to make a technical adjustment here. Better. We're not seeing the title on the top, but I think the map. So this is the data that goes with that previous map. You have the 5 school board districts, the total population in each, and then a breakdown of the population counts. Percentage of population by district, and then the percent by the race. And I have to say, in this case, the race really didn't play a picture in any of your 5 boundaries. But the one on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see the target average district population. And so what I see is the averages of just over 13,000 people per district, and the 5% variation is the 654. And that is what I'm using to determine whether a district is too big or too little. Now I'm going to have to go to the next slide, because at the very bottom of that shows District 1 is too small per population, District 3 is too large, and Districts 2, 4, and 5 are just right. Unfortunately, District 1 and District 3 are not next to each other. So I can't just take some population from 3 and put them in 1. So I did two things. In option 1, I gave District 1 some population from 4, and then 4 then took from 3. And it does balance, and you can see at the bottom, do I have a laser? Yeah. But at the very, very bottom on the right-hand side, you can see that the population of 1 is within 1.95% of the variance, and 2 is negative 3.42. So you can see that everybody is within that 5% variance of the population of what we're trying to do. But unfortunately, in this case, it splits voter precincts. The county clerk doesn't really like that. So I made another option. So what I did here is gave from 2. So instead of swinging from 1 to 4 to 3, I swung from 1 to 2 to 3. So just north of the city that had been pink, number 2, I gave to District 1. And then, as you can see the circle, I gave precinct number 23 from 3 to 2. And that keeps our precincts pure. Okay, then I did one in the city. I did a map of the city, and you can see where precinct 36 is. So that had been in 2, and I'm now assigning it to 1. But our numbers then, unfortunately you can't see number 5 at the very bottom on the screen, but you'll see that everybody with this, keeping precincts intact, everybody's within the 5% variance of the population. And I have to say I like this one. I tried, let me go back to this bigger map. I tried to give that large pink area that's very western edge of 2 to 1, and then I gave what you see the number 3 that's down at the bottom, the southeast corner of your district to 2, and that threw it way off. It's just, there was just too many people in 3 to swing that way. So I did try a couple of options before I came up with this one. So this is now the results of 1A. That I did a section, an option 2. This was really based on, unfortunately, you have your paper maps. You can see on page 15. We did keep the change that was in the Manuelito area and brought 1 down to I-40. But then I changed again out there on the far east. It does balance the numbers very, very closely. Everybody's within about 2%, but again, it splits voter precincts. So personally, I like number 1, but it's up to you. And then one thing I wanted to also say is all schools that are currently assigned to each of your 5 board members do not change with any of these options. And then, let's see, and then our next steps. So I could go further, I could give you more options, and try to come up with something a little bit more elaborate, but I do know that we'll be splitting precincts if I do that. So now the next steps is we do have the 5 public meetings, and we each of, or one public meeting in each of the 5 districts. And then we come back with a final approval by the school board. And then after you agree with one, then I help the county officials with what is now going to be your school board districts for the next 10 years.
Quick question. So what I understand, unless I missed something, a precinct can be split.
A
It's just
precinct-
that you're saying the county doesn't like that. But
Right.
this is our election, not the county's election,
Right.
correct? Yeah.
A precinct can be split in local elections, which your school boards are, but they don't want them split in the national, in the congressional and state
Right,
level.
right. Let's make sure that's clear, that it's an option.
Yes, yes. But 1A makes the minimal number of changes and does satisfy all the requirements and would keep the county officials happy. So, but I have now a question of you.
Any questions, board members?
Okay. Mr. Mitchell?
I just really wish I could see where all this yellow color is for District 1. I mean, like to say where Tohachi is and then Twin Lakes, and
Yes.
then I wish that the names were on there.
And
so
I'm
I could-
sorry, I could have done, but it is true, Tohachi and Twin Lakes, everybody that's in the in that area, is still in 1. I did not make any changes to what schools will be in each of these 5 districts.
So Coyote Canyon is still out of 1, right? Because I know
Ye-
that was the
yes.
last time we redistrict, we took Coyote
We
Canyon and
took
moved it to 2.
Okay, that was
So-
one that I had, that's the very next, in the, let me see if I can go backwards. So, let me see, we'll go up to here. Dakota Canyon is the very next. Savannah, do I have a light, do I have a pointer? Oops, sorry, I shoved it. Okay, well, the area that's just, oh, someone's got a hand on it. So, Andrew, go to the right. Keep going, keep going. Okay, that precinct, that is with Coyote Canyon. That's where it is, if I'm not mistaken. And that was one I tried to put into 1 and give 3 to 2. But what we could do is probably give that one to 1 and keep 23 in 2. That'll still, so I can look at that as an option if that's what you'd like. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, is it Brim Hall? I had my, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and members of the board, we're ahead of ourselves here. This was just a time to explain the process, not to actually create boundaries, and so nothing in this is for a vote or anything like that. So
Right.
we're jumping a little bit ahead of ourselves here. So I think if you have any questions about the process, we can wrap up the presentation.
And
I
you're
thought
right.
just give her an idea of what I would like
Yeah,
to
that,
see.
she has to receive input from the board, also
Right.
the district, and none of that's happened yet. So we're not even close.
In the communities.
Yeah.
So, any questions about the process, board members? If there's no question, thank you for
Okay,
the
well, thank you.
presentation.
Well, but I did have one question, and maybe Giovanna, who do I need to, with whom do I need to work to get each of these 5 meetings set?
You'll work with Ms. Hanks.
Okay.
So from now on, you can talk with her and coordinate and then get further direction. So thank you.
All right, well,
Thank
thank
you.
you very much.
President Long, members of the board, I also have a few items as part of the superintendent's report. I wanted to discuss just really quickly. Thank you for your participation in graduations. It was a best time of year to be able to see students who have been in the school system for so many years be able to kind of see their accomplishment of graduating and finishing all the requirements by the state to kind of move on, furthering their education. So thank you for being a part of those. It was a great weekend. Also, want to congratulate our staff and students and parents for completing this school year. It has not been, it kind of started out rough, you know, when you're going from remote into in-person, but our staff and students handled it well, and we quickly got into the flow of things, and so we're super excited for next year to kind of start out with an even cleaner start. This is the last day of school today. We do have summer school happening, and I know one board member asked a question about that earlier today, and we have put out flyers, put it on social media, but I just wanted to do it publicly and announce that summer school for high school this year will start June 6th through June 23rd, Monday through Thursday, 8:30 to 12:30. And kindergarten through 8th grade will start July 11th through the 28th, and will be from 7:30 to 12:30. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Bell, that's also Monday through Thursday? Monday through Thursday also. Last couple items, just to let you know that we do have a union negotiation meeting coming up on the 7th of June. We opened, or tried to open negotiations back in February. If you can see how long this process is taking. I think we had our proposals fairly early on. And so we are still waiting for some ratification. The union did ratify the current year 3% of a quarter increase, which is really about a 0.75 approximately increase for staff this year. But we're still negotiating the remainder of the salary. We did put out a tentative calendar already to try to help parents and families figure out their summer plans and schedules. Again, it's not up to us to determine those. Those are negotiated with the union. And so we're still waiting for ratification or agreement to a calendar, even though we put the calendars out months ago. If a negotiation agreement is not reached, then we will continue on with the base salary increases for the state, and we'll continue on with a like schedule to this year, which is similar to the proposed calendar. So. And lastly, as you know, you just approved special education RFP, and there have been a lot of rumors in the community, and I think some people trying to purposefully create rumors and I think sometimes when the district tries something or looks a different direction to try to improve education for students, there's always those conspirators and those who cry foul. Would probably argue with us if the sky was blue. But nonetheless, this is an effort to try to improve special education services for students. I'm looking for things that we're not doing now that we could do better in. And that's the purpose of the RFP. One of the rumors out there is that we're replacing all special education staff, which is absolutely not true. We're just looking for some assistance with management of those services. Everybody's already received a letter of intent that's going to receive a letter of intent, which is a majority, if not all, the special education staff that are below the administrators. And so I just wanted to clear up that rumor. And that's it. Any questions, board members?
Kevin?
I was wondering, do we have a date for the credit recovery? Is that going to be the same as the June 6th through the 23rd?
Yes, it is. That's for high school for credit recovery.
Thank you.
Thank you, board.
Any other questions, board members? If there's no other questions, you can ink these notices and communication into your calendar. For that, let's go down to new business. A, approval of right-of-way easement and site agreement for optic communication lines and telecommunication facilities and KEM action.
All right, President Long, members of the board, have Mr. Bell come up and have Ms. Hanks on deck for the next action item. As you know, I can't remember, it was a couple years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I can't remember, but we leased some land here down by Kennedy Middle School, and for Sacred Wind to put, we call it like a hub or connection, and so there's a need to expand that to better the service for the schools in the community, and so I'll let Mr. Bell explain a little bit more in detail about what's being asked of the board with respect to that plot of land or expanding that plot of land.
So to be specific to the plot of land we're talking about, it's on there's the parking lot in front of JFK. It's right between the street and that parking lot. There's a little building that Sacred Wind uses from us that deals with all of our telecommunication, our fiber optics. What they're needing to do is for more of an emergency situation to upgrade the system. So with backup generators, with propane to keep the backup generators going when the electricity goes out. And if you look at item E, is specifically what everything they're putting into it. So for fiber optic cable lines, regeneration of equipment, backup generator, propane tank, handholds, placement of electric utilities, and a fence facility, which they'll be asking for just a little bit further back to put the tanks in it. So any questions on that? I was hoping someone from Sacred Wind would be here. Ah, good. Come on up. Rebecca Maribal, thank you for coming. Very good. So are there any questions on this? And I have the experts here to help us.
Let's have them explain a little bit from their perspective, and then maybe that'll wrap up all the questions. Thank you.
I'm Gary Clausen, Director of Engineering. And the history behind this is we won the E-rate to go ahead and provide communications to all of the Rhema schools.
And I apologize, Mr. Klaus, for interrupting. If you get closer to the mic, this is online on on YouTube, and so it doesn't pick it up very well unless you're almost eating that mic. So I apologize.
We want to make sure you get as many likes as possible.
Okay. Yeah, when we won the bid to provide communications down to the Rhema schools, and also I think there was 22 Gallup schools in Gallup proper. We also do the backhaul for Frontier, all of the other schools in the Navajo Reservation. We backhaul those. And when we won the bid, we were looking to strictly run fiber into each school and just provide the bandwidth to the schools. Then the school district came to us, technology came to us, and requested that we would go and maybe place a facility that they could co-locate in. So when that came up, we decided that a hut, a communication shelter, would be the best way to go. And that way they could mount, IT Department of McKinley County Schools could mount their equipment in our facility in case, as backup, if their equipment in the IT room failed. So all the other schools would still continue to maintain service. And what we're looking to do now is add a standby generator to this site. And that's just go ahead and make sure when the power goes out, if it does go out, that we have backup. The other thing we've done, we've brought CenturyLink into our hub. And that's for redundancy back to Albuquerque. Right now, we are providing all of the internet services to McKinley County Schools. And we are leasing additional bandwidth from CenturyLink so that if our fiber goes out, we have CenturyLink as backup. So this is a huge investment we did with this hut. And we would be looking to do a longer term than a couple of years. So we'd be looking at a 20-year lease because it's a big investment. And we plan on being McKinley County School partners going forward.
Thank you.
Questions, board members?
Mr. President, so this action item is just, at this point, just to approve the right-of-way. It's not for this longer lease that you mentioned or anything. Correct. Makes sense. Yeah. Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion that we approve item 6A. I'm sorry.
We would like to extend the documentation to represent the 20-year lease instead of the 4-year lease that is on the paperwork. So we would have to go back to have an amendment on this lease agreement for 20 years.
Okay, well,
We'd probably have to consider that separately.
Yeah, that'll have to be separate. So we can approve this now, and then, yeah, usually we don't make those determinations. We have to publicly disclose that information.
Okay.
So we'll have to do that another meeting for if we agree or want to bring to the board an extension. But for now, we only have the right of way or the extra piece of property, however you want to say it, so that we can move forward with that particular project. But we understand your desires.
Okay, thank you. Board members, motions made by Chris Mortensen to approve the right-of-way easement.
Second.
Second by Michael Shaw. Roll call, Joan.
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Shaw,
Yes.
Mr. Mortensen,
Yes.
Mr. Long.
Yes. Thank you, board members. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
your sacred winds. Thank you for your presentation. Okay, board members, moving on, let's go down to new business B. Approval for superintendent to pursue the building the teachers on current school property and or seek other acceptable property in McKinley County outside of the city limits of Gallup.
President Long, members of the board, and Ms. Hanks and I just want to give you a little bit of an update on our search for property for the teachers that we'd like to build here in the area of Gallup. Just a quick short history. I don't want to belabor us in all of this, but essentially we were approached by the city for a piece of property, which is currently where we house the buses for in town, over on a property over here by the police station. They were interested in that property, I believe, for some sort of storage yard for the police station, and I believe they're looking potentially to build some new facilities also. And so we were looking at potentially that land and trading it after we get appraisals for a piece of property over kind of by the hogback, by the old Rocky View Elementary. It has been a long process. We are antsy, obviously, to move forward and construct teacherages for the benefit of our staff and our students. And it appears as though the interest isn't as high as it may once have been. And there may be some concerns on the city's end. We believe those aren't concerns that are viable, but nonetheless, the property out at Rocky View in that area, although is a nice piece of property, it may not be the best piece of property for us in building teacherages. We have district property, plenty of it. We have lots of property by Stagecoach, for example. We have lots of property out by Gallup High and Chief Magnolia Middle School. And there's lots of other property out there that potentially could be available that might be just as easy to construct on, a facility on. And so since these are state buildings, it makes it fairly easy for us. We already have a revenue bond in place to help us construct those, and we're looking for match from the state also to give some more assistance. But we need to move forward. And so again, that triangle piece of property by Rocky View may not be as desirable as we need, and so in order to move forward, seeking the board's permission to either move on our property to construct teacherages, and then during that process potentially look for others if that's not feasible for some reason. But obviously, before we picked something specific, we would obviously come to the board for final approval. This is not permission for me or the district just to go do whatever we want to do with respect to construction. But I want to give you a little bit of background about what's happened as of late. Ms. Hanks, do you have anything to fill in on that?
Sure. President Long, members of the board, Superintendent Hyatt, and members of the audience, it's very important that we move as quickly as possible on this project. As you are well aware, we're moving on housing almost all across the county right now, and we all know that this is a very needed project to ensure that we can maintain staffing levels. So there's a severe sense of urgency on our side as far as the timeline of us getting this started and getting it done. As was indicated by Superintendent Hyatt, we do have lots of property, and so we actually had a binder of that property prepared for us earlier this year, just in case we needed to build something new or have an opportunity for doing something different. And in doing so, we do have several different options. We do hope that you consider that versatility for us, just so that we can continue to be agile and move forward.
Questions, board members?
Have we sold the property that's right here on Aztec? That's where the old is it EDC used to be? Was that, or do we still own that one?
President Long, Mr. Mitchell, we do still currently own that property.
We have had some interest in leasing. We've had some interest in purchasing. There's still some interest out there from some people. And so we're just kind of waiting whether that's something we want to pursue or whether there's other alternatives for that. But that piece of property with respect to teacherages, something could be constructed on that piece of property potentially, but it is a fairly small piece of property, and so you'd have to go up rather than out wide and do some sort of parking underneath. It might be fairly extensive, and we'd probably still have to split up locations. And that could be something we eventually want to do. Maybe we want some teacherages on one part of town and some others on a different part of the Gallup area. But if that's kind of where you were going with that, that is a possibility. But it is also kind of a difficult, not only piece of property, but a difficult location. It can get pretty hectic in that part of town also with traffic. Coming off of Ford Canyon across we wanted an easy entry onto the freeway to be able to get wherever staff needed to go. And so it feels like, at least right now, what we're looking at is either the east side part or the west side on those two on-ramps and off-ramps for teachers to get on and off, because those central two on and off-ramps can be really busy, especially at certain times of the month.
Thank you.
Any other questions, board members?
Mr. President, I've got a quick question for Mr. Hyatt. Does it, I mean, I see kind of what we're trying to do, maybe put together like a larger thing, and you're able to get some economies of scale. But in terms of like teachers being handy to their location, is there anything that makes sense to, maybe to spread some of these out? Like, like Mr. Mitchell mentioned there at Wilson, or, there may be little pockets of property where we could put, 5 or 10 units in here or there, like in, some of these spots around town in Gallup.
That would probably may be ideal. In some ways it may not, but here's the problem that we're facing is construction prices have skyrocketed. And so the ability to build an apartment-like structures can save us a ton of money. I'll use the Rhema teachers as an example. I don't want to get my numbers wrong, but I'll give us some approximates, and Giovanna can correct me and we can send out the actual numbers later. But I think originally we were looking at about $2.6 million for those teacherages. I think they ended up around $4 million just because of the increase in costs. So when you start building larger footprints and you are building separate buildings, which means more exterior walls, more roof, those costs add up quick. And so by spreading out, we would have to spend even more money. Our revenue bond now doesn't even allow us to build probably 100 units. And so maybe close to 100. And we really want to try to do 150. And so the apartment style facility seems to be more favorable due to costs and due to ease of maintenance and taking care of those, because once you spread things out, it becomes a little bit more harder to manage. And also, you may not be able to provide as many amenities. There's a host of things that we could probably do at one location that we couldn't do if we start splitting up, as far as amenities or as far as access, maintenance, security, fencing, and the list goes on and on. So.
Yeah, and just to add to Superintendent Hyatt's comments, just the infrastructure itself, utilities, earthwork. The more locations I have, the more cost associated with those types of things if that infrastructure is not existing. And the reinforced, of course, foundations, just due to the nature of the soil in our county.
Yeah.
Any other questions, board members?
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion we approve this agenda item. Which one are we talking about here? Item 6B, approval for superintendent to pursue the building the teachers on current district property and/or seek other acceptable property in McKinley County outside the city limits of Gallup.
Okay, motion's been made by Chris Mortensen to approve new business B. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Michael Shaw. Roll call, Joan?
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Shaw,
Yes.
Mr. Mortensen,
Yes.
Mr. Long.
Yes. Thank you, board members. I believe we've completed our business for today's meeting. What is the pleasure of the board?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, motion's been made by Michael Shaw to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by,
Pretty quick.
second by Chris Mortensen. Roll call, Joan?
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Shaw,
Yes.
Mr. Mortensen,
Yes.
Mr. Long.
Yes.
1:55.
1:55. We're adjourned, board members. Thank you. Thank you, those in the audience, staff,